Welcome back to the conversation with me, Jordan Brown. Today we have a very special guest, my grandmother, Cheryl Brown, a former Assemblywoman, publisher, small business owner, and current California State Commissioner on Aging. She has devoted a majority of her life to public service and has been recognized by countless local, state, and national organizations on her work on behalf of the community in various capacities as an elected official as well as a community volunteer. She also is working with Governor Gavin Newsom's master plan for aging, and she has excelled in many areas, including planning, education, business, and community service. In and out of elective office, Cheryl Brown has always been a champion of family owned small business. The pride and community benefits of owning a small business was instilled by her father, Marvin, a veteran of World War II, who started a tax preparation business in Southern California over 60 years ago. Today, that business is still up and running by her brothers. Following her father's lead, the Black Voice News is now owned by the Brown's daughter, Dr. Paulette Brown Hines. Her mother was a lifelong learner, and she recently followed in her footsteps by returning to USC and obtaining an advanced graduate certificate in gerontology. My grandmother and her husband, Hardy Sr., have been married for 57 years and raised 4 children here in San Bernardino. Lynn, Paulette, Hardy II, and Regina have been blessed parents with their 9 grandchildren, and I'm one of the 9. So for today, I am very honored to have our special guest. We're going to be talking a little bit about public service, civil rights, and the Black Lives Matter movement, and just a couple of other things. I hope you all enjoy the show today. Welcome to the conversation with me, Jordan Brown, but I would just want to take the time to introduce our special guest, Miss Cheryl Brown. How are you doing today?
I am doing great, Jordan. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Yes, absolutely. So why don't we go ahead and jump right in? So I really want to talk about your work with public service. What in particular got you started in the public service world?
I think that I've always been in the public service world because it's a part of our family. Our family, my mother, my father, my brothers, all of us have always been very much involved in trying to make the community a better place for everyone.
So apart from the family, what particularly inspired you to continue this work? Was it just legacy, or was it something that you just feel this work is a part of you?
I think that you're right. I feel that this work is just a part of me and a part of the legacy of our family.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I can talk a lot about that. Let me see if I can cut it down.
No, we want to hear your voice.
No, our family, the Mentor family and the Glanton family, very, very much involved in things that were going on in the community and making it better. My grandfather used to have a garden, and in that garden, it was acres, not just an acre or two. It was probably a good 5 acres. But remember, as a kid, I thought it was bigger than that. But they would grow the food and they would give it away to our neighbors. Just because my grandfather had always been a farmer from the South and he came to North to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and he just continued that activity. And then when you have so much food, what are you going to do with it? You have to share it with others. And you give it away. And then our church was very important. In the AME church, which I belong, my grandmother took us there and taught us about public service and taught us about how we had to serve our fellow man.
That's beautiful. I was digging through pictures the other day and I found this picture of you, and I don't know how old you were, but you had on this like really cute, like I don't know, like some tribal print outfit, and you were in a soup kitchen handing out soup in the picture, and there was like a whole spread of these pictures. And I was like, oh my gosh, look at her. She's always been stylish and a public servant all at the same time, always.
It's
And that's how you
funny.
are right now, and we're matching.
That's fun. That is so funny. Well, do
I
you
love
want
it.
to tell everybody how I'm related to you yet?
Oh, I mean, sure. This is my grandmother. I don't know if you can you see it? I think it's in the smile, really. I think we have a very similar smile.
Yeah, well, I think that you look, number one, just like your dad, and your dad looks just like me.
Mhm.
So,
So let me ask you, what does it feel like to now have seen so many different, I guess, civil rights movement, being there in the quote unquote original civil rights movement, and now seeing activism through the Black Lives Matter movement? What does that look like for you? How does that make you feel? How do you relate to these new movements going on?
well, I think, first of all, that they're wonderful, that the young people have finally come along and said, you know, Black lives do matter, and we're going to do something to make life better. That's the same thing I said in the 60s.
Mhm.
So it's like we're doing what we used to do, and it's just more intense, and it's more intense with people who are not necessarily the same people, or don't look like us, let's say.
Mhm.
um, Before, the movement was more Black oriented, and we had a few Latinos and a few whites. But now it seems that there's more whites that are looking at the Black lives, that are involved in the Black Lives Matter, than many in many communities, than even Blacks. But the message is still the same. We need to have inclusion of everyone in
Yeah.
our community.
How do you feel about the diversity in these movements?
Well, if there, if the diversity is true, if if the people are doing it for the right reasons,
Mhm.
perfect.
I feel
But
the
if
same
it's
way.
something that they're not doing for the right reason,
Mhm.
like there was a situation where some people found that, oh, if we just get hooked onto the Black Lives Movement, then all these foundations will give us money.
Mhm.
And so there's people that are using it for themselves,
Absolutely.
not for the good of the people and of our country.
Yeah, I think a lot of the conversations I've been having recently are sometimes when we bring allyship into these conversations, we look at what does it actually mean to be an ally? Is it enough to just say I support? What goes along with that? Because there's so much action. Like you said, they're really going into this movement and actually pushing and seeing and trying to make things different, and in that you have to create action to make this change. And it's like we can continue to talk and continue to talk, and of course the discourse is important, and we must continue to read and continue to educate ourselves about these issues. But when it comes to being active, we want to see everyone there.
I think everyone needs to come to the table and know the history. The reason that so many people are fighting against it is because they don't understand the history of the United States. Excuse me. They don't realize that slavery and the building of this country came from Black people, African people. They
Mhm.
could not get they could not get the Indians to do it. They could not get indentured slaves, indentured servants from England or from Europe to come and do it. They could not get, well, there weren't very many Latinos then. They imported us on ships in chains to come and do this work for free. And because of the color of our skin, we couldn't run away like others could. We couldn't assimilate like others could. So we were stuck. And so for 400 years, we were stuck in this place. Now it's time for us to come out of that, for, for everyone to understand that history, and then
Absolutely.
for us to be able to move forward. Because if you understand it, just like when we take people on the Underground Railroad tours, when they come back, they understand the history of this
Oh yeah,
country.
they do.
And when
That
they
is
understand the history, they look at us and they look at the country completely different.
it opens your eyes. Like when you're there and you're learning these stories beyond Rosa Parks, you're learning stories beyond Harriet Tubman. But even then, when you're on the tour and you're sitting in front of Harriet Tubman's gravestone, it really makes you wide open to what's going on and what has happened because you actually see it. And I think that that is a major issue, is that a lot of people think of history in terms of like movies and television. You know, I can see it happening, but it's not exactly real. There's some sort of screen in between how we actually digest this information. And then when you take away that screen, it just becomes so much more real. And we have to take away that screen so people can really realize, wow, all of this actually happened. The people in the textbooks are real. We're reading about these stories, and that's why it's so important to see like primary source artifacts. We've talked about that earlier on my dad's interview, and just like looking at what people actually went through on a very like physical, real level, because when you get there, it hits your heart. And then people can kind of understand more, and then they come with this empathetic mindset, and it really changes things, because when people are hit through their heart, they are quick to change, quick to action, because they realize this is a real problem and we have to overcome it. We have to keep going. We have to shoot for something better, because better can be a reality, and we have to not let go of hope. So that brings me to my next question for
Well,
you.
let me say this. Dr. Judy
Oh,
White says, and she's one that has been supporting that work since I began it several years ago. She said it's the most transformational thing that she's seen happen in education.
wow.
So she says that even years after people come back from that tour, they still retain it and it still becomes a part of their being. I remember one teacher who told me, I'll never look at a Black kid the way that I look at him in my classroom. I'll never do that again. And I was puzzled. I said, well, how did you look at him?
Right.
And he didn't want to explain it. But he was a teacher, and he just said that for him, that was how it transformed his life. So everybody needs to know the history. And if you know the history, then you can respect the people, and you can respect the Capitol that was built by the people. You can respect the White House that was built by those people. That is, to me, the transformation that needs to take place in America.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when we come from this place, like I said, of empathy, of understanding, of true compassion, then people will react differently. But I was saying earlier, I really wanted to ask you, what gives you hope? Because I feel like the hope is already existing in this conversation.
You know, I think about it, and I know the last time I even thought about or spoke about this, I think hope is because of my deep belief in Jesus Christ. I believe because when you read the scriptures, he talks about and gives you that hope. If you know that God is in control, then you don't get so forlorn. I mean, you just don't say, I'm gonna go and jump off a bridge because of what this country has done to us, or because of what they're doing in this latest thing that they're doing, depending on what it is. I mean, it could be that they're keeping us from voting, or it could be that they're keeping us from doing something else. Whatever it is, I know that God is in control of that. And if God is in control, all we do is just sit back, we pray, ask him to change his mind. If he doesn't, we move on, and he'll give us that answer.
Okay, I think that's sweet. Let's talk about the year 2020 a little bit. Now that we're not in 2020 anymore, I think a lot of people are very excited to be living in 2021. Although I will say, I think 2021 is going to look a lot like 2020 in terms of staying home. Maybe not as much shock, but definitely just now we're simmering, we're sitting in COVID and we're just sitting in quarantine and dealing with that. What does, oh, actually, what did you learn most from quarantine and from just year 2020? That's what I want to know.
What did I learn from 2020?
Mm-hmm.
I think I learned how to make more money. Believe it or not. Um, for me, 2020, and my I have a business, and I got more contracts. I got things that I don't even have to do. I couldn't even do because everyone needed you to do something, and especially to reach out to our community. You have redistricting coming up, so we have to really be aware of that. And there are contracts out there for redistricting. There are contracts for all kinds of things from the government and from private businesses.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, that's interesting. Huh. I definitely learned how to deal with stress. I think that was something I learned a lot with 2020, just looking at, okay, how not to be overwhelmed because there were so many overwhelming moments from March until even till now. And it's just finding those special coping mechanisms, whether they be like meditation or cooking. Cooking was a big one for me. I got in the kitchen a lot this past year, so that's been really good for me.
Well,
So
that's
let's
good. I
see.
think I think I read more. I prayed more.
Mm-hmm.
I meditated more.
Mm-hmm.
I did more. I did more to help your grandfather, who is disabled. The things that I didn't get to do is to throw out stuff that I don't need. That's one thing I didn't get to do, and I'm going to work on that for 2021.
That's definitely one thing I did because I had a big move during 2020. So I definitely changed up everything and acquired some new things as well. But just learning how to live on my own, that's one thing that I learned in 2020. Um, oh, let's see.
I've never lived on my own. Never.
Hmm.
I've
It's
never.
interesting. It's
So
interesting.
yeah. So I don't. I don't know about that, but yeah,
I
that's it.
wanted to ask you another thing about public service in terms of imagery, because we were talking about the photographs that I found the other day. What does it look like? Like, did you have to like recreate an image of yourself when it came to public service, or did you just come out in this genuine space, or like what does that look like for you creating this image of you doing public service?
Yeah, I don't know what you mean creating an image. This is who I am. And once you know me, then you'll know that this is just who I am.
Mm-hmm.
This is who God has made me through all the trials and tribulations along the way. And I didn't have to create anything. Now, some people don't like who I am, and that's on them. I don't worry about that. But I have certain sets of beliefs, and I just that's who I am. And that was through the church, through the family, through the friends, through everyone. Education in our community, in our family was always important. That's why we're so proud of you and getting your PhD. And I mean, I think about it.
Ooh, I'm working on it.
Well, you'll have it before long, but education was very important. Now, in my generation, we didn't have the opportunity to even think about getting a PhD.
Mm-hmm.
But we had an aunt, and her name was Aunt Addie Brown. And she would always tell us that every Black family needs to have a doctor in it. She didn't care if you're a medical doctor, if you're an education doctor, whatever kind you were. She says every family, every Black family needed to have someone who was a doctor. It gives the people that are coming behind us something to strive for. My mother was a lifelong learner. she went to school until she couldn't go to school anymore. I remember whenever she had gone to school for so long, I said, Mom, well, don't you think you should get a degree by now? And she said, oh, I don't think I can get a degree. I said, but you're going to school all the time. And she said, yeah, but I don't know if I can get a degree.
I love that. See, I think a lot of people chase the degree and chase the grades, but forget about the learning aspect. But you really have to get into the learning because that's what's really fun.
And that's what she loved. Mm-hmm. So she went into the office and told them, asked them if they would check to see if she could get, a degree. Mm-hmm. And they said, you're so far beyond that. You've taken so many classes. So she went ahead, she graduated with I think she had an AA, then she had a BA, and then she went to University of Redlands. Now she lived in Los Angeles, but she came all the way out here, and they didn't have Zoom at that time. Mm-hmm. She came all the way out here to go to school at Redlands, where she got her master's degree.
Sorry, it's the mailman. We're on Zoom. That's real life.
Where she got her master's degree. Wow. Yeah. So, and now we have you getting your PhD. We have Kennedy going behind her, your cousin. Mm-hmm. And she's going to the University of Redlands, and she's getting her master's degree. Mm-hmm. So, Mom, Aunt Addie was right. It inspires those that are behind us to do better. And that's important.
I was going to ask you for some words of encouragement, but I think that this is where we should end. I think those were words of encouragement.
Okay.
Thank you so much. This was wonderful. I'm glad we had this conversation.
Well, thank you for the conversation, granddaughter. I just love talking with you. I love being with you.
I know I miss you. I want a hug.
And if we could ever do another Gigi Day, we're going to Disneyland.
Okay, I was just talking about Disneyland earlier today. I miss you. Okay.
I'd love to go to Disneyland.
Me too.
If nobody else was there.
I know. All right. It has been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for the conversation. And I am so proud of you. You will never know how proud I am of you. So thank you.
Thanks so much to my grandmother, Cheryl Brown, for joining us today. I hope you all enjoyed the show here with me at home. Remember to stay safe and mask up. And I want to encourage everyone to show your support for the great work we do so we can continue to bring you more great content. Because what we do it for you, and we are all in this together. We can't do it without your support. For more information on how to give, visit our website at blackvoicenews.com or click one of the links in the description box below. It's the act that matters, not the amount. So donate today. And as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. See you real soon. Peace out.